The Parish was a little more aggressive. Then you went to Act 2 that featured the Blasphemous Act combo main deck. Then you saw Splashing Green from Voice of Resurgence. Well, Todd went back. He's playing Champion of the Parish, but he added Zathrid Necromancer, which is one of the new cards that interacts really well with the deck, giving you tokens whenever a human dies. So we'll see how it works out for him in this game.
So we're going to see Weston Cates on the left. He's playing Black-White Control. This is basically the Orzhov Guildgate deck that Brian brought on to win. He wrote an article about, and then he played in Baltimore 2, right close to the top 8. Ended up going X1 and 1, 9th or 10th place. As you see, 2 Guildgates in there for Cates. But, this is basically like a mid-range deck. It's like a Jund deck without green or red, but it's kind of the same strategy of just being like a control mid-rangey deck with good cards, good creatures, good spells, good removal, stuff like that. A little bit of card drawing and Sign in Blood. As you see, Anderson's going to attack here with the Aristocrat, playing the Necromancer pre-combat.
Yeah, and this is a tough spot for Weston to be in because obviously Todd has the Cartel Aristocrat, which is very, very good in his deck. It allows him to sacrifice cards. He has cards like Zealous Conscripts even, which can actually steal Weston's threats, attack with them, and then sacrifice them to Cartel Aristocrat. But he also has a Necromancer in play. So now, even if Weston does have removal for his creatures, he's going to generate a token off them anyway. So he's constantly putting pressure on Weston right here.
Yeah, and make it a second Necromancer. That's what Todd's going to play pre-combat. He's going to get in with his first Necromancer and Aristocrat. You saw Cates play a Geralt's Messenger, which is obviously a good card, but it coming to play tapped is one of its drawbacks, so it's not able to block. And, you can argue that doesn't even really get the opportunity to block profitably now at all. It is going to come back, but, it's not really going to be great in this situation.
Yeah, even if Weston just blocks here, he's going to lose his Geralt's Messenger. It will come back because of Undying, but again, Todd will get 2 tokens from the Zathrid Necromancer.
So here's a Desecration Demon that's going to show up for Cates, and he's going to play this, and what's going to happen here is just kind of interesting. So he plays it looks like he plays it in main phase 1. So if you go to the attack stat, the Desecration Demon triggers, and so Todd can tap it and sacrifice a guy. If he sacrifices one of those Necromancers or anything, he's actually going to get 2 human tokens. So had Cates play this in the second main phase, which he likely did not announce, Todd can, Todd wouldn't have the ability to sacrifice a guy to get 2 more tokens out there. As it stands, I'd be surprised if he doesn't want to do that, and you see he's going to sacrifice.
Yeah, why not? You want to get, you're going to generate 2 tokens here, so you're going to be able to attack with 8 creatures, with 8 power next turn. Weston only has 1 blocker, so you can potentially drop him down to 6 here. And it looks like Todd actually has a Blood Artist in his hand too, so he's threatening to close the game out pretty quickly here.
Yeah, a little Fireball combo maybe in order here for Anderson. He's going to get 2 human tokens into play. We'll make sure we get the right ones out there for you. Sam Black he'll do just fine for this time.
So Todd generates two human tokens from both Zathrid Necromancers. He now untaps. Weston's tapped out. He has only a Geralt's Messenger left to block. And it looks like Todd might have drawn a second Blood Artist here. So
I see an Orzhov Charm in his hand too.
Yeah, it looks like this game should likely end on this turn.
Yeah,
Let's see how he sequences it.
He's got 4 mana.
There it is.
There are both Blood Artists. Now he gets to get in. The blocks are going to be bad here for Cates. He's going to have to take 2 damage from the block. I mean, Messenger's going to die in a block here, so that's 2 from the Blood Artist. And then whatever Cates blocks is going to be 2 more. So we're looking at 4. So that's at least 4 damage. Going to put Cates on a 10. Yeah, I don't think there's any way for him to get out of this situation.
Yeah, he's going to take 6 from the attack no matter what, dropping him to 8, and then Todd can just sacrifice the remaining creatures to do the remaining 8 points of damage.
You see Todd's going to say, all right, here's the damage, 6 through with the 2 tokens in the Cartel Aristocrat, 4 Blood Artist triggers from Messenger, so that's going to be 10, and I think we're going to see a little bit of Fireball action, and we are going to see a concession. So Todd Anderson is going to win game number 1 with the Aristocrats over Weston Cates, playing Black-White Control in a pretty easy game 1 to start the tournament.
Yeah, pretty good start. He curved out really well. He got to turn 2 Aristocrat, turn 3 Necromancer, turn 4 Necromancer, and then followed that up with double Blood Artist. So pretty solid start for Todd here.
Yeah, outside of not having a 1-drop in the form of Doom Traveler or Champion of the Parish, I think his draw was absolutely excellent. He was able to win that game. It looks like on turn 4 or turn 5. But we'll take a look at the sideboards here. We're going to start with Cates' deck, see what he can do to turn things around. We've got 1 Vampire Nighthawk, a Blind Obedience, a Rest in Peace, a Curse of Deathhold, 2 copies of Pithing Needle, 2 Duress, 2 Underworld Connections, and some more singletons in Doomblade, Sin Collector, Mutilate, Liliana the Veil, and Ultimate Price. Looking at this, it doesn't really surprise me that, there's not a lot of cards here that really jump out at you as cards that are trying to beat the Aristocrats outside of Rest in Peace. Being able to make Blood Artist pretty much textless, make Zathrid Necromancer into a overpriced 2/2, things of that nature. But outside of that, I mean, I'm not really sure what else he would want to sideboard. I mean, Vampire Nighthawk is fine, but it's not exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a card he wants to bring in. It allows him to sort of deal with the life loss that he's going to get from the Blood Artist. So can try to race there a little bit with the Nighthawks. But like you said, his sideboard really isn't geared to beat this type of deck. I mean, one Rest in Peace, that's obviously very good against the Aristocrats, but having only one, you're not really likely to draw it. He's got a Curse of the Deathhold, which again, that's not bad against Todd's deck, but doesn't have that many options. Compared to Todd's Game 1 deck is already pretty good against Black-White control. I mean, he has a lot of cards that are difficult for Weston to deal with. And after board, Todd has 3 copies of Sin Collector. I could see those coming in because against a deck like this, maybe you want to try to go after some of the removal. You want to get rid of their Tragic Slips before your Aristocrat comes down because Aristocrat's so hard for a lot of decks to deal with. So maybe Sin Collector comes in. He also has 2 copies of Mark of Mutiny, which I can see coming in because, you know, just stealing a Desecration Demon could be good, and then you can sacrifice it. So I think Mark of Mutiny probably comes in. He also has 2 copies of Slayer of the Wicked, 2 copies of Sorin, 2 copies of War Priest of Thrune, 2 copies of Profit and Loss, and 2 copies of Appetite for Brains. So I'm not sure how much Todd knows exactly what's in this list. Appetite for Brains is obviously pretty good against Restoration Angel and Desecration Demon. Also gets rid of Obsidian, so you might want to bring in some of the Appetite for Brains, as well as War Priest, just because if Weston does have that Rest in Peace, he really needs to deal with it.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to hedge a little bit and just say, okay, well, either way, it still can deal with cards like Oblivion Ring, which Weston does have. So I'm not sure if Todd knows exactly what's in Weston's list, but I think he might bring in the War Priest just to sort of hedge against any potential Rest in Pieces.
Yeah, I mean, War Priest is certainly interesting, again, because there's also Blind Obedience in this deck, which, you know, you don't know if Kate's is going to leave that in after sideboard or not. He's not playing against a haste deck like Brian Kibler's green-red deck from Worlds. But, I mean, Blind Obedience certainly, you know, does some things here. Extort's not irrelevant, and again, you don't know if he's going to leave it in. I think that, you know, the interesting thing here is that, you know, Todd probably has a pretty good idea of what's in the deck because Brian Bronduin, you know, they both live in Roanoke. Brian wrote the article on Star City, played it in Baltimore, all that good stuff. So he's probably got a working knowledge of the deck, but again, there's a lot of moving parts that can be played in this deck list. You know, there's not a stock deck here. It's kind of like Jund, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of the slots can vary from spot to spot. You know, we're looking at a sideboard here for Weston that has 3 separate 2-ofs and all singletons. So, you know, how can you really put your opponent on certain things? There's a range of things they can have, and you can try to sideboard into those range of things, which is why I like the idea of bringing in War Priest, because you can put your opponent on a range of enchantments they can have in the Curse, in Rest in Peace, in Blind Obedience, which plays a lesser role here, and in Oblivion Ring. So I think it would probably be smart just to hedge your bets and board a couple of those in.
Yeah, like Todd basically, I don't think Todd wants to change his deck very much. It's not real. It's pretty well suited for Game 1. He also doesn't want to interact. There's a lot of cards he just can't take out. Like he can't take out his Aristocrats. He can't take out his Necromancers. Champion of the Parish might be a card that he wants to take out on the draw in particular. And maybe in this matchup, it's not that great. You don't really want to be that aggressive. But again, he is sort of a human deck. So Brimstone Volley is probably not that amazing in his deck, so I could see him cutting the 2 that he has in his main deck for 2 War Priests. But beyond that, I'm not sure he wants to change his deck that much.
Volley's super interesting in this deck too, because that's a card that, you know, when it got spoiled or, you know, when it got released and all that good stuff, you see that card and you're looking at 3 mana 5 damage, not very hard to turn on, but it never really caught on. As a result, it's a card that people really just don't play around.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
And it gives the deck a lot of reach that you just don't see usually.
So Anderson is going to start off with a Champion of the Parish, so, you know, not the best card on the draw, certainly much better on the play, but we'll see if he has maybe a Gather the Townsfolk, because Kate's does not have a second land.
Wow, so Kate's on a mulligan to 6 here is forced to keep a 1-lander and does not have the second land. Now Todd has another ideal start, turn 1 champion into turn 2 Gather the Townsfolk, which nets him 2 1/1 human tokens and boosts the champion up to a 3/3.
Now I'm not a human. I'm not.
Yes.
I know that I am a goblin. I chose that. I don't want to be human.
Yeah, Cedric Phillip tokens are goblins, not humans.
Yeah, It feels like to me that Kate's probably, you know, he has a 1-lander, probably kept, you know, a Sign in Blood hand. And just hasn't drawn the second land. But unfortunately for him, Todd is out the gates very quickly.
Wow.
As he has a second Gather the Townsfolk. I think 2 more of me are about to come into play. I can only hope. Now, if I'm going to get some screen time, I'm going to take it. Don't let me down now, Todd. There I am. No.
Todd is not messing around this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the nice things about this deck is he's able to just get this game over with incredibly quickly. He's going to come in for 5, 6, 7, 8 damage. Yeah, now, there's almost no way for Kate to get out of this. I mean, if he draws a land, what's he going to do? There's probably one of those Sign in Blood. You see he has a Victim of Night in his hand. Let's see, a Nighthawk, an Ultimate Price.
Oh, wow. Oh, he had the Rest in Peace.
Yeah, okay.
one land Rest in Peace against Aristocrats, I could see wanting to keep
On a
that.
mulligan to 6, I don't hate that keep.
Yeah.
And truthfully, like if he draws a second land there, he's got Victim of Night to be able to kill something. He's got Rest in Peace to turn off some of Todd's cards and some other things like that. It feels a little bit sketchy, but at the same time, like I can certainly see it. And when you do have 4 Sign and Bloods in your deck as well, there's a series of draws that you can kind of get yourself out of trouble with.
Well, you just saw a situation there where, we said Rest in Peace is actually pretty good against Todd's deck. Unfortunately, it wasn't the half of the deck that Todd drew.
Yeah.
So even if he did have the second land for Rest in Peace, Todd just had the aggro champion draw, which really Rest in Peace doesn't do anything against. So
Yeah.
That's one of the unique things about this particular deck compared to the old Aristocrat Act 2 deck. That deck was really vulnerable to Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
Because it was all based around, this sort of combo with Blood Artist and Blasphemous Act and Boros Reckoner. But Todd's deck, he can actually be aggressive because of Champion of the Parish and the number of human